Looking back when I was an atheist or an agnostic, the moments where I had those glimpses of something that made me worried that I missed out were those surprising moments of the numinous. For me, oftentimes music, the second movement of Beethoven's Third Symphony, the funeral march in that C minor, incredibly aching music that brings tears to your eyes even though you didn't expect it. And somehow that aching longing comes into mind and you're like, there's something here I'm supposed to be part of more often, but it's gone about as soon as you grasp it. Or something beautiful in terms of art, although it's often for me, the music. Does that happen to you to get those glimpses of, C.S. Lewis calls that joy, that we're surprised by joy, the name of his book. Do you get those? And what do they mean?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought this up again, because I remember earlier when you used the word longing, and I've always identified the feeling of beauty as something a bit like longing in a way that's also, okay, so I think that the word beauty is one of the most like promiscuous terms in the English language. I think that like we refer to a bunch of different, like categorically different things and kinds of things as beautiful. I think that music is beautiful. I think my wife is beautiful. I think that meal was beautiful. We're meaning totally different things, right? And so we have to sort of hyper-focus here, right? So like with music, for example, it is an incredible mystery that you can like play some notes on a keyboard that vibrates the air in such a way as to bring up very specific emotions in a person. That's incredible. And like, yeah, I've experienced that, right? And I feel very lucky to have experienced that. With painting and art, it took a long time. I used to sort of not really enjoy it or get it. A lot of it had to do with contextualizing the art and learning a little bit about why it was painted, when it was painted, what the world was like, what this bit of art would have meant there and then. That now I'm a sucker for art and galleries. I think it's great, and I've tried to pay attention to like what is going on, what's happening there, right?
What's this say to you?
And I wonder. I've often felt like it's longing seems to fulfill the bill, at least in some of those cases, because
longing for what?
If you look at that's the question, right? Yeah. That's the question. If you look at and this is why, by the way, I understand why people use this argument from beauty to God, because like, what is this thing that you're longing for? Well, maybe it's something like some kind of intrinsic maximum of beauty. I find that quite difficult to cognize. I find that difficult to sort of look at a painting and a bit of music and a really good pizza. I think the thing that they all sort of have in common that's pulling me to if I sort of push those together, I sort of get a God-looking figure. Maybe though, I don't know. But I do think that if you pay attention to someone's facial expression, right? When you walk around the corner, you see a beautiful painting and someone's captured by it. What face do they look at it? Do they smile? Do they go like, oh, no? They sort of go, like their face is like, it almost looks, if you took a picture of the face and showed it to somebody, it looks almost like scared, or it looks upset, or it looks like uncomfortable. It's sort of like you know what I mean? Like it's sort of like, it's that crunched up face.
Yeah, I want to have that. It's an ache.
So it's almost like it's almost a negative emotion. Like the feeling of beauty is almost negative rather than positive. So why is it that people love it so much? Why is it that they chase it out? And that's where I think you also get this stereotype of the.
Well, there's awe and wonder too.
Or what this is the what is it that Rudolf Otto said? The mysterium tremendum et fascinans. The mystery that sort of fascinates you, but also makes you tremble, or something like that. You know, it's this, and he's using that to describe the numinous, the holy. It's terrifying at the same time as being fascinating. You're like pulled in and pushed away at the same time. And I think if you think about the cliche of the suffering artist, you know, the poet and the painter, and they have a terrible life, and you know they almost enjoy the suffering because it brings them better art. What is all of this telling us? It's telling us that there's something about beauty which is about negativity and disconnect and suffering. And maybe it's something about feeling the suffering. If somebody suffers enough, they get the feeling that there's a way the world is supposed to be that it's not.
Yeah.
And once you realize there's a way that the world is supposed to be, that gives you teleology. And once you get that teleology, you can start expressing the desire for that end in art. But I mean, that the fact that that is a negative emotion, I think is interesting. That's an open question to me. By the way, I remember once I was sat, we were in Corinth, on top of this hill, sort of looking over the view of Corinth, and I said to my friend, I said, he's a Christian, and I said to him, oh, what do you make when you see like a beautiful view like this? Like what's going on in your head? Trying to understand, someone who believes in God, what do they make of beauty and stuff? And he kind of just shut me down. He turned around and said, Alex, when you analyze something, you try to take possession of it. When you enjoy something, you let it take possession of you. And that just about shut me up. I was like,
that's not a bad response.
I was like, fair enough. Maybe I'm spending too much time doing the analysis. The moment you begin to ask the question, what's going on in my brain as I look at this painting, you're kind of doing the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah. That's not going to help you experience the awe very much.
Yeah. So in other words, I do experience that. I don't know what to make of it. I think it would be a bit crude, as some like analytic philosophers do, to sort of say, well, this is an argument for the existence of God. But I understand what you're saying, that it seems to sort of point to something a bit sort of out there, a bit sort of numinous.
If you were looking for evidence that you could experience that God is out there and looking for a relationship with you, this feels like one of those candidates.
I think music is the best there, because paintings are tricky because they're human-made, and of course, like music is human-made as well. But humans didn't make that effect. No. Humans didn't create that ability they discovered it, And there's a similar way in which that's true with like the way that colors are beautiful and put together. But paintings are so often representations of real world objects. But music is just this thing, which also, by the way, seems completely unnecessary. It seems that like there's no reason why we would need, as like evolved creatures, to develop this faculty for beauty.
There is. There's
for music,
of our brain now that responds to music differently than it does to speech, which means it's there for a reason. It's evolved really to recognize musical tones. There's a circuit that recognizes pitch. There's one that recognizes intervals between the preceding note and the note you just heard. And most interestingly, there's a circuit that predicts the next note.
But do you think there's a survival benefit?
There must be.
But in like not just being able to tell different pitches apart and stuff, but like of the ability to enjoy music.
Enjoy and draw others together with you. Mothers singing lullabies to their babies before maybe they even could speak language. People getting together to mourn a disastrous situation or a loved one.
Okay.
Or getting together to sing a fight song.
Well, okay, maybe there is a reductionistic evolutionary explanation. I don't know. Maybe we should swap seats.
The one to ruin this, but no, there's some there, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have the same significance for us, just as I don't think the fact that we can talk about these things means that they are less likely to be important to God. Our brains are intended to provide the substance by which we can achieve revelations that we wouldn't have been able to do.
Yeah, I do wish I had a bit more interesting to say about, from like an atheist side, about the beauty stuff. I think the only way to do that would just to offer some kind of like reductionistic account of why the human brain has evolved to sort of be able to tell pictures apart, and some of them are more pleasing and others, and then we've like co-opted that to create, artificially stimulating things with like pianos and guitars. And I'm sure we could do that, but like you say, let's not waste time. I think most people probably are aware that kind of argument could be made. It's still a wonderful mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that the key thing here throughout all of this is that like I'm not convinced by fine-tuning that it's like a good reason to believe in God, but it's a great mystery. The Christian isn't convinced by suffering that there is no God and that this undermines everything, but it is a great and terrible mystery. The beauty is a great and perhaps terrible mystery as well. The resurrection is a strange moment in history, like what happened on Easter morning. It's all an incredible mystery, and I think anybody who professes confidence in the knowledge of any of these things is either like a really, really talented physicist who actually just does know a ton about fine tuning and can probably like school both of us, fine. But when it comes to those sort of big consequential questions about the existence of God and stuff like that, and what beauty really means, man. Like if somebody professes that kind of confidence on questions like that, then I immediately treat them with suspicion. Maybe that's one of my priors.